You're going to be shocked by some of this. Quote, an elementary school offered inappropriate sex ed lessons to students without parental consent or district approval, according to concerned parents and a community activist. Parents only found out about it from finding the lessons plans from their kids. Fourth and fifth graders at Lincoln Elementary in the Olympia School District received sex ed lessons on May 9th. Okay, but it's not normal sex ed. Here's the thing. Materials presented by Planned Parenthood included drawings of pubic hair shaped like an animal, and students were told they could pick from a number of contrived genders to identify as. Some of the materials promoted medication to block puberty. Another page of the pamphlets said, some kids are he, some kids are she, some kids are they, and some kids have more pronouns to share because everyone belongs. Students were asked to reflect on what pronouns they want to use, and they were given a gender wheel worksheet that has different identities like trans, intersex, drag king, trans femme, agender person, girlish boy, boy girl, and non-binary. It introduces children to they and ze pronouns and also tree pronouns, and teaches kids that, quote, ways of thinking are changing all the time as old limited beliefs transform and evolve. I'm sorry, on behalf of the LGBT community, that's cracked.
That is so demented. That's so deranged. And again, I wish it made me want to die less. So this is what sucks. And this is where so lack nuance on this. Because one of the things that I get criticized for a lot is that I have said multiple times in interviews in my career that I experienced gender dysphoria at age 5, and I will never take that statement back for the areas of concern that either side has on that statement because it's true. However, what the left says is, well, since you experienced gender dysphoria at 5, shouldn't we be transing the kids? Shouldn't we be giving the kids access to, gender affirming care? No, the fact that I experienced that as a child and it persisted has nothing to do with my ability to consent to anything as a child. The same way that people start wanting to have sex around the age 12 or 13, that's when hormones start kicking in. Does that mean they're able to consent to that because they have those biological inclinations or feelings about it? Absolutely not. That's why we have laws barring that. It's the same thing. And if anything, it's like the argument is only strengthened for trans adults when you bar it for minors, because the studies all show that gender dysphoria in children, when those children are left alone to go through puberty and develop naturally, dissipates the vast majority of the time. So then, because we acknowledge that, if we can just acknowledge that, people, incidents where that dysphoria persists into adulthood, that is when you can start having the conversations about transition. And it makes it more valid. It's like, okay, I went through puberty, it's still here. So I need a solution. And for those people, some of them, transition is the case. So I don't see that as hypocritical at all, but teaching kids that, to get back to what you just read off, which made me go insane, is that I had so many issues with that. The first thing is the inclusion of drag kings. I don't like, even though obviously drag queens and kings are a part of the LGBT community because they are gay men and lesbians and some trans people, whatever, the idea that those are like legitimate identities outside of being an occupation, a type of performer, is so bizarre to me. That is not a gender identity. A drag queen is not a gender identity. That's a job. That's something you go on stage for and you get paid for. So the fact that the left treats them as this marginalized community and not performers that are subject to just as many restrictions and laws where they perform as any other type of performer is crazy to me. I don't like that. And again, none of those identities even made sense.
Tree? Really? Tree pronouns for fourth graders?
Disgusting, but what's crazy is like, when you look at the people who really push this stuff, who are like tree pronouns and drag king identities and whatever, and kids can be all this, the majority of the time, and tell me if you make this observation as well, it's being pushed by people who are not gay or trans. It's like just these straight, not trans,
They're
white.
allies. They're just trying to signal
Exactly.
allyship.
Exactly. So the fact that we're supposed to view those as like our defenders, or like, well, why are you on the right when these other people are the ones supporting you? Is that real support? It's kind of like
No, they're undermining us.
they're undermining us and they're doing things to hurt us. It's kind of like if you are in a relationship, there's a relationship and one person in the relationship is addicted to meth, and the other person, the partner supports the partner who's addicted to meth, loves the partner who's addicted to meth, provides that money every week to go get the meth, is super supportive. It's like, that's not love, that's not support, that's not allyship. That's you perhaps having the good intentions of wanting to keep that person around, but it's not allyship at all.
Yeah, and I also think that with truly gender dysphoric people like yourself, nobody had to plant the idea in your head, right? Because you actually had gender dysphoria from a very young age.
Right.
And the idea that we would be going up to fourth and fifth graders and like asking them to reflect on their pronouns and giving them all these new options, I really don't like, I don't like to say the word like grooming, because unless we're literally talking about you're trying to hurt children, but you're pushing this on them almost, or causing them
Yes.
to ask questions or reconsider things they wouldn't otherwise have, which is not what this is supposed to be about. This is supposed to be about tolerance and letting people be who they are, not pushing
Yes.
things on people at younger and younger ages. And I think we have to call that out, because if I would understand why people would look at that and they would have extreme backlash to it.
Oh, of course, because I do too. I hate it. And, you know, there also is a difference between when you listed all those identities, it's like almost every single one of them rely on such shallow definitions, such, stereotypical, you know, interpretations of what they are. So if you're, a demigirl or any of these things, it's like, so what does that mean, that you're a tomboy? What does that mean, that you're a male who is feminine? What does that, all of those are such regressive ideas while purporting to be progressive ideas. I didn't choose to transition because I like the color pink and because I'm whatever. It's because there was an incongruence and there was a mental disorder attached to it, which they also don't want to, admit to, despite the fact that they are traditionally the group of people that purports to want to destigmatize mental illness and mental disorders. At each and every turn, these people have like ruined our credibility. And it's so hard to unsee that once you see it. It's like, I don't have any intention of making like conservatives who would never come around to accepting LGBT people come around to it. I don't care. I want them to have their life. I want them to live by their standards. I just want to be able to live by my standards and live my life. And I find that the left makes that harder than even the right.